All right, I am waiting on a new reference and speed sensor. I just went ahead and went with Bosch. I've been using this brand called Facet, and I don't know, the signals are technically within spec, but they're much weaker than what everyone else seems to get. And my car almost sounds like it's having like a misfire or intermittent timing issues, and then it snaps and it's fine. So I'm thinking this might be the issue. But I went ahead, I got the Bosch ones. I'm going to ohm them out and then test the voltage response on it. I was getting less than 1 volt on the speed sensor, and according to some YouTube video, you're supposed to get at least more than a volt. I was not getting that. So we're going to try that out. I also went ahead and, because I'm waiting on that part, so I decided to start working on some other stuff. I turned the fan on, the blower fan on the inside, and the fuse kept blowing, but I could kind of hear it trying to turn. So I got this out and pulled it apart, cleaned it up. I put some oil on the drive shaft area. And then I hooked it directly up to this 12 volt battery. I spun it by hand a few times to kind of loosen it up. And then I just hooked it directly up to 12 volts, and she is purring like a kitten now. I cleaned out the heater core. There's no sign of leaking or anything like that. I did, however, see that the resistor, which I could not find really anywhere online, was broken in half and all the solder joints had come off. So I ordered one from a Toyota Tacoma because it has the same wires, or same amount of wires. And I'm going to try to wire it in there and just see if it'll work. It offers resistance, so same but different, but I'll let you know how that goes. In doing so, I, of course, pulled the entire console out. Yeah, you can see the carpet was a lot of different color initially. Kind of hated having to pull that out, but cleaned up some grounds. Anyway, I verified that the switch works for the fan. The vents all seem to work, and I'm just kind of going through here. I thought this plug was for the HVAC system, and I'd been looking around to see where this thing hooked up forever and couldn't find anything. And so I think it was in there because they probably used a wiring system amongst multiple cars. Because that doesn't hook up to the HVAC system, and this early car seems to run directly from power to the blower fan, and then this just controls vent direction and the heater control valve. So you get a little bit of temperature and then you get heat when necessary. So on other diagrams, this said it was for HVAC, but I can't see anywhere that it plugs in. So I don't know what that's for. This system seems to work off of that center knob, the AC knob, and when I turn that on, the radiator fan comes on, and this blower fan comes on. So I'm assuming, actually, I don't know. I don't know what this plug is for. So maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe someone in the comments will tell me what it's for, but it doesn't appear to be for anything for this car. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together now. I'm going to verify. I'm going to check some lights that weren't working. Some I don't need, but like the indicator light for the shifter wasn't working. So I'm going to try to get that working. But yeah, everything else seems to be coming along. Transmission sucked up all the transmission fluid that I put in there, and I made just a mess. Trying to put more fluid in to top it off. I need to get more transmission fluid because Obviously it filled the torque converter and everything else up, but that was about it. So I'm gonna get this put back together. This stuff's all pretty wild. That's why I don't do like step-by-step how-tos, mostly because I don't know. I'm usually half researching, half working. I did pull all the injectors out, and I hooked up an apparatus with like a 3cc syringe and brake clean, and I checked to make sure the magnets were working. The spray pattern that was coming out of there looked pretty good, so I'm not concerned about that. I do have a new Bosch fuel pump that I might put in, but this all looks good. The pressure looks good. I had another guy tell me that 29 to 30 psi while the car is running is actually within spec. So we're gonna let that fly for now. I need to clean up this butyl tape that they use for sealant on here. I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna replace it, but clean that hood up. When I get the new resistor wired in and make sure that it works, I'll put that housing all back together. But yeah, she's coming along. This is the original color of the car. Wine red. It's like maroon. I don't know. I think it's kind of ugly, but blower fans, super accessible, which is nice. There are two separate blower fans. This one's for fresh air. The one under there just recirculates cabin air for the AC system. And this one pulls in air from coming in under the hood into here, and this seals off. I might replace this gasket because this seals the engine compartment so fumes aren't getting pulled in there, but this gives you fresh air from outside. So super easy to get to, really easy to clean out. Hadn't really even played with it before because I was too busy working on this. Hopefully this is all not for nothing, doing all this other stuff. If I can't get this thing to idle correctly, and I'm starting to, hopefully it's the reference sensor and the speed sensor that are the issue. Because everything else, like timing's good. I would expect something like that if it hadn't smoothed out and idled fine. It starts rough, idles rough, and then sometimes I don't touch anything and it just starts idling fine and revs fine. Other times it won't do anything and it won't rev up at all. So new fuel pressure regulator, which when it was idling fine, I disconnected the vacuum on this and idle increased. The damper is aftermarket from Radium Engineering, same specs as the OEM, just kind of a different design, and I wanted to do that so that I could hook a gauge in kind of permanently and not have it up here. But this way, if I'm in here doing stuff, I can monitor fuel pressure to make sure everything's working. There is a diagnostic looking port up here. I don't know what it does. I'll have to look at the wiring schematic. Learning a lot about how to read wiring schematics because I've just looked at all the grounds, and it's amazing to me. I mean, this thing's 40 years old and it works great. Yeah, it didn't work when I first turned it on, but to be able to clean it up and get it working, and the amount of air it pushes is incredible. Like the most powerful fan, granted running on high, but the most powerful fan, a blower fan in a cabin that I think I've ever experienced. So pretty cool. I got a new thermo switch coming, and yeah, nothing really else. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that center console back together, clean up the wiring back there, and I might hook a voltage meter up and hide it in the glove box just so I can always kind of have an eye on voltage, but I don't really want to drill a hole in the dash. So I was thinking about putting it in the glove box so I can just open the glove box and kind of see it in the back corner here. But we'll see. We'll see how ambitious I am. This car just keeps giving and giving and giving. I got everything put back together. And I hooked the battery up and it just started smoking under the dash. So I disconnected the battery quick. I had the key in the ignition switch when that happened. And I got under there and looked, and like the main wire from the ignition switch is fried all the way to the connector. And pretty much every loom to the turn signal switch, the light switch, which I disconnected the switch. Switch looks fine, but the wiring to it is completely fried. And it's just everything in here. I'm really upset about this, but I'm going to take it all apart and start rewiring. Pretty big setback because I just got my new Bosch speed and reference sensors and I was getting ready to drop those in and test them out, but that will not be happening probably anytime soon. We needed the Blue Mountains to get in here, boys. I've torn the dash off again. Not again. I guess I've never had the dash off before. There's a weird relay up here. It's just not connected to anything. I don't know if they just like stock mounted stuff. I know that is the relay for the fan. I've already come in and cleaned up these contacts. They were super loose. It looks fine. I'm not worried about that, but I just had probably the worst wiring snafu. Oh, this is all torn up. The hose here for this vent is all broken. So I guess I'm glad I'm in here. Try to figure something out. A fix for that. Yeah, check her out, boys. This turn signal switch wiring. I don't know. I'm trying to get it to focus. What the hell? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so wiring fried. Ignition. Wiring fried. Light switch. Wiring fried. I mean, this goes all up and around here. So I can't see any other. I'm not exactly sure why it shorted out. Other than maybe bad turn signal switch. It'd be pretty wild for it to race through that. But like the hazards, that all looks good. This is the defroster. That looks good. It is to the lights only. I only noticed it because I was trying to see if the clock worked, so I hooked up the battery for a second, and I saw a huge spark when I put the ground on there, and so I knew it was having a draw, but I guess it didn't click in my head right away, and I looked in, and I saw the dash lights were flickering even though the light switch wasn't on, and then just a puff of smoke came out, so I unhooked the negative real quick and got that sorted out. Just when you think you're about done with the project, you have to tear it all apart and redo it. So maybe it's something with this janky radio wiring that isn't protected. I know that's an ignition switch wire, so that could have been the source that had grounded out against something. I don't know. Didn't look like it was touching anything, but who knows? Yeah, anyway, wish me luck. Because I've got a baby coming on Monday, so I'll actually probably have plenty of time to rewire this thing. It was just something I was hoping to throw a reference sensor in or a speed sensor in and hopefully call it a day, but I guess now I get a deep clean This bad boy is going to be like it rolled off the factory floor. So that's where we're at. Have a good day. Have a great weekend. Have a Coors Light.